Tank may not be here.
Great way to start the show. Thank you.
Oh.
Welcome to the show, everyone, the Foolish Tech Show. I don't think we'll have a lot of people here, apparently. But no matter, because I'm hosting tonight, so I don't need anybody anyway. But I got some interesting things to go over, I think, at least. I looked some more into the Caine forensic tool and the autopsy tool and did a little work with it, actually having a drive to image and everything. So we'll probably go over some steps of that. Unless, Johnny, did you have any other interesting tickets or things you wanted to talk about?
Not interesting. No.
Well, okay then. If you're joining us on YouTube or Google Plus, you can join our live chat at foolishit.com/live or foolishtechshow.com. We'll have links to the live chat or the embedded and the video there, so you can watch and join in the conversation here. But I guess without further ado here, we'll go ahead and... Oh man, didn't work. I have to do something. Hold on. So I decided to update my NVIDIA graphics driver, and never update your graphics driver if you're in the middle of doing 10 other things, because it is just a terrible, terrible experience. They have yet to make it any good. But essentially it like crashed. I couldn't see any of my displays. I had to use remote desktop to remote into my computer and then close everything down, so at least I didn't lose anything. Like I was able to shut down everything safely. But just a pain that I had to do that. And then it broke my USB 3 monitor, so I had to like go and find a updated driver where the Windows one was working before. With this new Intel or NVIDIA driver, the Windows driver for that didn't work anymore. So I had to go to Display Link and download the actual driver and install it, and then it made me restart it again. Just a big pain. Kind of ridiculous that they do all that. There we go. Alright, so while this is getting set up here, I really did like Caine the most of the tools I talked about yesterday. So I kind of spent some time on that and looked into it some more and found some pretty interesting things about it. First, let's start off with this, which I'm posting a link in the video chat here. And I'll show it off on this page. Share my screen here.
Hey guys, just finishing up a ticket. Sorry for the late start.
Oh, no worries. So this is something I found. I just posted the link in the public chat, and I'll add it to the YouTube description as well. But it's a law enforcement and forensics examiner's introduction to Linux, which is kind of interesting. Really, if you want to just learn the ins and outs of Linux in general, that's about what half of this book is spending time on. So it goes through a lot with the command line installation, how Linux handles hardware, and then the OS setup and things that you might need to be aware of through that time, how you
Oh,
can edit
wow.
things, look at things.
That's thorough.
Yeah, it's a very, very in-depth, and it's really technical, I guess you can say, but a lot of these technicalities it's really good to know before going in hand, like the file
But it kind
system
of walks
table.
you through it too. I mean, it
Yeah,
tells you exactly down to a very nuanced level. Of course, it probably takes you some time to digest all that, but you certainly have if it's got a table of contents and an index, I'm sure it makes it relatively easy to search.
yeah. So it's pretty nice and pretty in depth. Once it gets past a lot of your
Right.
Linux generic stuff, it starts getting into how you can set it up for doing forensic work. Like here's a example option. You can boot to a Linux live CD on the suspect's computer, have something like a Caine installed on this system, and then connect through a connection and have everything extracted to a drive. So
Oh my God, did I just say did I say table of contents and index? I guess I should have said search.
you said all three of those actually. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty interesting read. I didn't read all the way through it, but just perused through it like this, finding some interesting things. The sleuth kit is actually the autopsy Linux side that we looked at yesterday, so you can
Yeah.
get some actual instructions and details on how all those work and look at them. So that's pretty cool, I thought. Um, the manual for Caine basically just kind of gives you some overviews. They do have a nice Caine installation tutorial done by someone else, and it's for the previous version, but Caine version 7 came out, I think, just yesterday, so
Yeah.
sure
I'm
there's
sure
not
it'll just take a
too
couple
big a
days.
difference. Yeah, well, it's not probably too big a difference from 6 to 7 as far as installation goes, because it looks like the biggest thing they changed on 7 was how you handle the mounting and unblocking and blocking
I'm sure they
running
made
the
that
file
easier,
system.
right?
So
Yeah.
kinda, it was a little bit of a hiccup, but um, you can't make a live USB seat a live USB with Caine, though. I did notice that. Um,
Yeah, you mean Kane's 7?
yeah, well, it says for Caine 4 and below, you can use Rufus to create one, but otherwise, they make it sound fairly difficult to do
Um,
it that way. So
we've talked, or I've used Rufus, and we've talked about Rufus previously, right?
yeah, and I would think that using the uh, USB CD emulator tools, things like that, would work. Because I mean, basically, I'm just booted into a live CD here, so you would
Mm-hmm.
think most of the ways live CDs work, but maybe there's some technical things that they're doing as far as this whole not mounting thing goes. But um, like I said, it looks like it's an OS that's made to be installed and like actually usable as apart
Yeah,
from its
yeah.
specific nature.
We talked
So,
about that yesterday.
so yeah, there's some info in there. I'm gonna post this link on the public chat as well here.
Didn't you do that yesterday? But yeah, sure, why not again? Yeah.
Not for this documentation style.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
They also go through and give you a
Well,
overview of what's changed here. But what's nice about this page too is they give you a brief introduction to what each of these tools that's included with Caine is for.
oh, that's nice.
And
So
it's really
a lot
nice
of
because you can
good
just
online documentation. Yeah.
right click and search that tool and find out more about that specific tool as well. So
Oh, neat, neat, neat.
nice there. And the last interesting thing I saw was that it has a Windows side as well.
UFO?
And yeah, they've teamed up with UFO Ultimate Forensics Outflow and are have that included on the same live CD as Caine, so you just pop that in your Windows system. And I was thinking these might actually be good for some of our tech users, possibly even for third-party tools in D7.2.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay,
They
cool.
got
So yeah.
quite a few tools. I'm assuming probably all of these are uh, freeware, so got some iPhone stuff, some different log viewers. The malware stuff we already have covered, although I don't think we have ClamWin. Network tools. A lot of these look like the Nearsoft tools, like I know Kerports is. Probably some of these other ones are, but access to Wireshark right off there, and some other type tools. A lot of these are done in D7.2, but some of them might not be. And just a cool thing to have on a CD as well. Some recovery things, some reports, and some different viewers. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, it may be a source for some additional third-party tools in D7.2. But let's go through what I worked with on this. So what I did basically was I had a Windows virtual system that I had set up, and I'd used it to clean viruses after infecting it with viruses. And then I took that virtual machine, booted it up with Caine installed. That's not what this one is, but that's what I did there. Then I had to use this block on off, and this is where you can set it. As you can see, it mounts everything as read only to start off with. If you check one of these and say OK, it makes it so you can mount it with writable access. I'm sure you could mount it through a script or somewhere else, but I ended up having to go into here and right click on this and say make writable so that I could actually write to my USB drive. But you could see that this one stayed read only, so you have to go in and select which one you want to be writable. That way you're sure that the drive you're going to be writing to isn't your customer's drive or the target drive that you want to do forensics on. That is another thing in this one. Let's see if we can start it back up here. So when you start up WinUFO, you have to agree to the license, and it asks if you want to create reports, which I would assume these things would try to store to. And if you say yes, you have to, since it's being run off a CD drive, you have to insert a USB drive to write to. It actually won't even let you save to the live drive of the system. So if we just try to save it here, you've selected the suspect drive to save location for your log files. Please choose another drive. And that's because you don't want to be overwriting things, especially if you're trying to use this recovery software. So you don't want to overwrite things on the live drive by storing reports there and overwriting them. So I thought that was a nifty feature there. But back over here, once we had the writable drive, I went in and started up this GUI major, whatever, and ended up coming down to the hard drive that was attached to the system, and then just saying acquire image, I use this format just so I can add some things. I think it's the same thing as this DD format. It just gives it a different extension and also gives it a examiner type text file along with it. We'll look at that when I pull up the drive here. But then I saved it to the USB drive that I had, and then I just started it to let it run. And it ran through fairly quickly. I think it took about 40 minutes to copy about a 30 gig drive size, so not too bad on speed there. I did find throughout this playing around stuff that I think forensics work is even more like do something, sit back and relax for a long time to wait on it to finish type work than computer repair is even. Because there's a lot of times like acquiring image, and when it's scanning the image and working with it, that you just start something and then sit back and wait for it to finish. So
Now, mind you, this is not because of a lack of performance on Brantley's end, because you do have a fairly modern, up-to-date, fast, resource-heavy system, correct?
yeah, it's just it's going to take time to
Yeah, to do this.
do things. So, although the virtualizing may have some overhead there.
Okay,
That does make
gotcha.
it
Of course.
slower. So.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, you are also running from an SSD and other things. But yeah, if maybe some of these tools could potentially take advantage of the processor better. What? I mean, yeah, I mean, I know there's virtualization overhead, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
As far as getting access to the CPU's capabilities.
So once I made the image, I went in and booted up into this live drive on its own that wasn't attached to that same drive. And we can see the image here, I think. Yep. So this is the image of that drive, and it only ended up being 10 gigs.
That's
And
because that was the size of your image, wasn't it? That was the size of your virtual machine, right?
I think it was the size of the data on the drive, because I mean it said it copied the whole disk, but it was a 30 gig disk, but it was a expandable format, so it
Yeah,
may
so it
not have
probably
gone
was
past. Yeah.
10 gigs. Yeah. I think that's the case. I think it is a disk copy, though.
Yeah. But it is. I started it up in another tool, and it does look like it's a full disk copy. So.
Excellent. Yeah.
This info is just like I said. It just gives you some information about how it copied, what it copied, how it did its copying stuff. So you can kind of see everything there. Would be nice so you can define your hashes of the drive data image to the original drive and say, yeah, this is definitely the same drive kind of thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Then I went through and tried to run some of these tools. Again, keep in mind that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing or how to do it. I was interested in the timeline thing, so I ran through and tried doing a timeline. And basically for that, you just say, okay, select the image that you're going to be using. And then where you want to save that image, or where you want to save the logs. You put in your time zone that the system was in. If you need to skew the time any amount, you can do that. You pick your from date. I wasn't too sure about this, so I just went back and set it to 1970. And then the to date. And I have previously made a timeline for this, so we're just going to say yes there, see what changes. But yeah, then it just goes through and starts running away. While that runs, we can check out the log files that it created before. So it ends up creating these three files. Oh, see, that already completed. So I think it used the data that was already there to work with. But you get a report, CSV report. I don't know what the conversion is, because obviously that's not coming up correctly. So I'm not sure why that is, but if you go in and look at the data, you can see what it was taking it from. It's the same thing. And then the that report had some stuff in it. There we go. While that loads, you can look at the times text here. So this is all the stuff that it just went through and took, and you can see it takes even like the hidden files there, and just runs through all the files that were on that system and takes their time record. There were some things about, there's a tool that someone can use to change all the times and date stamps on your computer, because I mean, these aren't like hard coded by any means. Someone can go through and say, I changed all the files on my entire computer yesterday. So they can't really rely on this, but if someone hasn't done that, they can still use this to kind of analyze those files and see the newer files may be more interesting to them, things like that. But yeah, you can see here all of the time and date stamps and the files that ended up going for those time and date stamps. So I thought that one was kind of interesting. I didn't really look much at any of these other tools. Did notice Fred here was a registry hive editor, so you can mount a registry hive and check that out. PhotoRec, I think, is a data restore thing. Same thing with test disk and DD repair, things like that. So quick hash. So they do have some interesting things. The other thing I did do, which it was all set up and ready to look at, was the analysis. You can see they have Autopsy 2.2.4 here. And this one's set up a little bit different than the Windows one, so I'm kind of going to go through that one. And then I have the Autopsy 4 down here set up with the same image, so we can kind of look through that. But I thought this one was a little bit interesting. So you do it all through a web interface here. And your host is just the computer that you're starting with. Put it in your time zone, time skew. They do have hash databases out there, and I was going to look into these for things like defunc, because there are hash files out there, both free and commercial ones, that you can get that are hash files of like common and known good files, and same with bad files. So you can put those in, and like basically you can tell it to ignore all the Windows files if it is the same hash, basically. So those are pretty good options, and I think those are used a lot by forensics teams, but obviously they would have access to the commercial ones. So we're going to go ahead and add there. Now we get the time to add the image. And hey, Undertaker, thanks for joining us in the chat there. Oh, now this was the fun part, because I have to figure where that file is. They don't have a browse feature. Definitely all by hand on this one. And tell if it's a disk or just a partition one. You can copy the whole image over to the local drive. Obviously, if you're installed, that's probably what you would want to do, not symlink it. But we're going to symlink it since I'm running it from a USB drive. And yeah, you can see it picked up that it's 2 partitions on this disk, which Windows 7 normally puts 2 partitions on a disk. So we'll go ahead and add that one. Okay. And now we can do things like analyze it. I couldn't figure this one out much, but I guess you can do keyword searches, look at details for the image. I don't know what data unit is. But what I started looking at was the file activity stuff, and basically you just create a data file. Okay. And that didn't take too long, so while that runs, we'll go ahead and check out Autopsy here. So this is Autopsy 4, the Windows version, and you can see I have the same image here, and I just had it run through its bit, and it's kind of nice being able to look through a drive and see everything broken up like this. It is still analyzing stuff because, again, my graphics driver updated and I had to restart my computer. It was like 90% way through that process. Kind of upsetting. But yeah, not much you can do there. It is pretty cool that it splits everything up for you. Like, it was cool that it showed me files that were encrypted on that drive, and you can see the devices that have been attached to that system, all the programs that were installed, find different user accounts that are on there, web bookmarks, cookies, history, all kinds of stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, Undertaker just asked in the chat. He said, "Did you cover that data forensics without a PI license is a felony in some states of the United States of America?" And actually, we talked about that yesterday. Actually, I pointed a link to. Hold on, let me see if I can find it here. I think this is it. Yep. So yeah, I talked about that yesterday, but I threw in the link to the DefCon 16 chat with Scott Molson, I think it was, and he talks about his trials and tribulations of going through dealing with that process. It's still a misdemeanor in Georgia where he was dealing with it, but they were in the process of trying to make it a felony in Georgia when he was in court over something like this, and he didn't get charged with the felony, luckily, but he ended up paying like $100,000 in legal fees to go through it. And yeah, Undertaker's seen that same DefCon talk apparently. So Yeah, so it is kind of interesting to know. I'm just going over it because I'd like to know more about it, and I think it's interesting. And from what I can gather, again, I am not a lawyer. Um, it's only illegal or a misdemeanor or a felony if you're doing it for a third party. And again, this is just my understanding of it, but if you come in and ask me to do forensics on your computer, I can do that on your computer as long as it's only your data. If you come in and ask me to do forensics on your spouse's computer, that's where you start to have a PI license because you're researching somebody else's life without their permission, kind of thing. And obviously, with my own stuff, I can do forensics on my own stuff, and it better not be illegal. That's ridiculous if it is, because these tools are all freely available and ready to download in the US. So, um, this timeline thing, jumping back over to this one, because it looks like I've completely locked this bad boy up. Trying to load 5,500 images there. Apparently did not like that. I put in 1970 for this one again. Do you actually have a security Cert 3 or higher license and can present evidence in court, Undertaker? If so, kudos to you.
Why is it a 45-year job? Just asking.
What?
Why is it a 45-year job?
Why is what a 45-year job?
The starting and ending date.
Oh, I just want to see what data came back from that, because there are some files in Windows that end up showing as like back in the 1970s.
Oh! You were searching for files. I thought you meant starting
Yeah.
of your forensic working.
No.
Ending of your forensic.
This is doing a timeline of all the files.
Oh, a timeline of the file. Oh, I'm sorry, not a timeline of your job. Yeah.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm working on tickets. My apologies.
No, it's still a good question, because I think, let's see if we can. No, so the farthest these files go back on a Windows 7 system looks like is 2000. But yeah, you can see that there are some files in October 1st, 2000, and this is an image that has just been there. It was not.
Yeah, I mean, I just typically don't see dates before 80, but I guess I'm still thinking DOS versus, Unix. But yeah.
But I thought just looking at the summary of the timeline was kind of interesting. This is as far as I got in my testing and practicing. But like seeing some of these dates for like February 2007. So some of these tools are showing dates from way back then. And it's like this virtual machine I know was not installed until like probably November of last year, maybe. Why does it keep doing that? So yeah, all of these files just have file dates that are not even actually possible there. But I thought it was kind of interesting
But I
to see
mean,
when they're installed.
allow me to interrupt if you don't mind. What's stopping somebody from forensically suggesting that, they had a file on their computer that was, let's say, dated, if I force touch a date onto it of 1970 or something like that, that person was in front of that computer doing some work in 1970?
That's something I mentioned already, is that there are tools that you can go through and change the time and date stamps on things. So this isn't for like, oh, this definitely happened August 16th, 2014. Like, these aren't hard-coded items.
Yeah.
So,
Just want to make sure that everyone out there
but
does understand that. Yeah.
it's a good reference point for.
Oh, it is. It
running
is, but it can, but that information cannot be used to prove that
No, but
time temporality.
it can depending on, like, there was one of the cases that I was watching through on some of the DefCon talks were talking about some crazy cases that they had encountered, and one of them specifically was talking about a spouse had brought in a husband's computer and wanted to get him, it was an ex-husband, they wanted to get him arrested for child porn because they said they had found child porn on his computer. And the wife said that she had found child porn on his computer and wanted to get him arrested and sent to jail for that.
Mm-hmm.
So this ex-wife wanted to send her ex-husband to jail for having child porn on the computer. The forensics investigators looked at the system, and they were looking through the file creation dates and noticed that all of the quote-unquote suspect files were all created after the husband had been kicked out of the house and didn't get to take his computer with him. So,
yeah, I can. Oh, I'm sorry. You can hear that, can't you?
yeah, we can. So with that, they were able to use the timestamps and show that it was actually the ex-wife's. We can still hear that, Michael.
Oh, I didn't turn it off?
No. With that timestamp, they were able to show that it was actually the ex-wife and the new boyfriend that wanted to get the ex-husband sent to jail, so they had gone on and put things on the computer to make it seem like it was him. But obviously in those cases, which I imagine a lot of the cases that forensic investigators look at aren't exactly of the elite people type things that know how to really cover their tracks type of stuff. So
yeah, but I would hope that listen, I also people call in experts that say things that might just there depends on your lawyer, I suppose, and how you're going to argue some of these things. But I just thought it was interesting that I would hope that the forensic person is more intelligent than the person committing the crime. In other words, so it is good that we make the audience out there aware that those that can be done. If you're not already, obviously, I'm assuming most of you probably already are. But yeah.
Yep.
Good point.
And also to let you know about the data recovery stuff, like, so if you delete a file, it's not actually deleted, it's just deleted from the table of contents, it's still on your hard drive.
Yeah.
If you go through and overwrite that file with a secure file deleter or something like that, that will erase the file, but it gives the forensics examiner basically information that there was something on that computer you didn't want them to see, so you overwrote it securely, and now they know that you had something to hide. And there have been cases where the court prosecuted someone anyway, even though there was no actual evidence, but the evidence was there that he had destroyed the evidence. So they were almost sure that there was evidence there in the first place. The person had destroyed it, but because they had traces of having destroyed it, it was automatically assumed that the evidence was there. And
yeah, it's assumed guilt. Yeah, it's assumed guilt. That's really interesting. I think, but I do like the fact that the law does allow some of those things to take place, because I think otherwise it would be far too easy for somebody to magnet just happened to drop from the sky and wipe out that data.
Well, and like in most cases, you would think they would just use random data, like overwrite it with random data.
Again, assuming it's a mechanical hard drive, but yeah.
Yeah, you would just assume they would overwrite it with random data, so it at least looks kind of like, oh, maybe it just got overwritten.
Well, yeah, sure.
But
yeah.
One of the ones that I was watching, they were talking about they looked for deleted files, and they looked into it and found that everything had been overwritten with "fuck you" all capitalized.
Well, see, no.
They were
I
like,
mean,
obviously.
I was like, damn it! I must have got infected the night before my trial, or the night before the cops broke in, and and it cleaned out all my, data. Overwrote my drive with "fuck you." That actually could be plausible. But I guess you can only take it so far. I guess it depends on the intelligence of your I guess the judge. Would that be the that branch of the government, the judges?
Yeah. But yeah, if you overwrite it with something like "fu," you're pretty much just inciting the people to know that you did something wrong and you didn't want it to be found. So keep those kind of things in mind. Another thing about overwriting drives and stuff that I learned throughout this process of researching and just being interested in the subject is that you only have to overwrite things once. Like, if it's not overwritten, you have a 90% chance of getting it back. If it is overwritten, that chance goes down to like 70% or something, which still seems high, but that's like a per bit recovery rate. So if you take a file that's split over thousands of bits, you have 70% of each of those bits being able to be recovered, and that takes the chances of the file actually being recoverable down to like 0.002%. So it's like, if you overwrite it once, more than likely it's gone for good. So
okay. Math so much not terribly important, and don't hold us to any of those numbers either, because I don't think you were checking them. But anyway, listen, don't Undertaker's throwing out some cool little.
Yeah, no, I was about to go over to those. So yeah, Undertaker says he spends a lot of time dissecting the index.dat files in Windows, which those are definitely some good ones, which I think that's what most of these, some of these files on here were. I forget where they were. Archives, maybe. Somewhere that it goes through and lists out all the index.dat files.
If any of you guys know, though, out there, you turn on hidden in system files or whatever, and you'll see those littered all over every folder on your computer. But it's metadata, correct?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, in Windows at least.
And Undertaker said it was billions to one. If it's been overwritten once, it's billions to one to being able to be recoverable.
There we go, and that's what I would, I just wanted a little clarification. But yeah. Thank you.
He says that the index.dat files is very good for tracing the activities of scam techs. Interesting. That is a good point. So, Undertaker, do you have a PI license and do forensics work, or are you in an area that doesn't require a PI license? Or I guess the biggest question is, do you do forensics work in general? Because if so, I'm very interested to hear about some of your stories and what you've worked on, and if you have anything there. Because like I said, I'm just going through these things because I'm interested in them and thought they looked cool and it was fun to learn about. But that's about my extent of going over them so far. Otherwise, I was just going to look through these autopsy report things. But if you have a microphone Queensland. He has a Cert 4 security in Queensland, Undertaker says. Did forensics for fun. Cool. Do you have a microphone and a headset or something like that? I'll send you the link. You can get on and talk about it. If you're allowed to talk about it, I guess. Otherwise, I was just going to look through some of these things and just show off some of the crazy things that it found. Yeah, here are all those index.dat files. So yeah, you can look at all that stuff. Oh, no mic. No worries. I'll be happy to relay if you have any stories that you want to type out. That would be fun, interesting to go over. Yeah,
what was
it's an interesting perspective seeing someone who has no idea about what any of this stuff means. No, I did, like I said, I just kind of liked looking at these things and kind of seeing what kind of information forensic people would find and come across. So, like, I mean, you can see all of the stuff here that this system went through. A lot of these are malware places or malware removal places. So, okay, good in a positive way. I took it as in a positive way that the perspective was interesting.
Yeah, well, no, definitely. Listen, I've got to jump out here. I still want to listen to this. The show, you plan to go long after 7 tonight?
Nah, I'm pretty much almost finished up here.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's good then.
Yeah, you can just wait around.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, I think I can.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I was going to look at. The last thing I was going to check out was that it does have a report for these. I did this generate report thing, and this is what you get.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to
Boom.
say. That's what I wanted to say.
This
Good
makes
thought.
it sound really serious. I didn't complete the investigation.
Ingest services complete.
I think that's what this meant.
So just print it off directly for your clients.
Yeah.
Don't
But
even look at it before you give it to them.
I think it's because it was still going through this process.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I printed the report while it was doing that, so it doesn't quote unquote have all of the information in it.
So sure, if you did this in a legitimate way, that it would reflect
Yeah,
a more normal run.
you can see all the devices attached to it, some of the metadata stuff.
Very thorough, very thorough. But as you were saying earlier, that process takes a long time. Like, yeah. what would have been your expectation on completion time for that? That ingest process?
So when I added this image to this morning, it was about 12:30 p.m. or so.
Okay.
And when I restarted the computer and it was at 90%, it was about 5 p.m. So
5 hours.
Yeah, 5 hours for just getting up to 90%. So probably another hour or two, at least. Like I said,
so you're talking about a whole day, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you start it before you go to bed, that'd probably be the way to do it.
Yeah. But it's definitely not going to get done on demand during the day. Yeah.
Definitely not an on-demand thing. Plus, you have to take into account that I didn't set up any of these options here.
Yeah. And that would have taken more time, potentially, had you gone through and done that.
Well, it could have shortened things, because I could have said things...
Shortened or lengthened, but, right?
I mean, I didn't want to match or things like that. If I had some of these hash databases, which actually Undertaker, I talked about it earlier, but I don't have any references for them. the known good or known bad hash file list that you would use in situations like this. Do you know of any free ones or links to any of them that you can get um, to use if you're playing with it on your own or just for other purposes? I would be interested in that since you had played around with this stuff before. I'm assuming you'd done some of this hashing stuff before. Because from what I understood is like normally you would go into an investigation having a list of known good files that you wouldn't want to look at or worry about, and that would just be passed over and not shown in the report. So like a lot of your Windows regular files and stuff would be excluded. Um, that would be cool to know if you do know some of those, or where you could get some of those, because I'd like to play around with them. But I thought the encryption one was definitely the coolest one. Extension mismatch. So like, that was another funny story that I'd heard in the forensic stories that I was listening to. Someone had copied a whole bunch of training videos or something and was going to steal them and take them to his new job so he could train the new job people on the competition that he had just left and what they were doing and how they were being trained. And he had gone through and renamed all of the video files to Nickelback music MP3s. So when the forensic people did the forensics test, they were looking at these files and it came up that they were labeled MP3, but they were actually video files. So of course they looked into those video files, and actually no, it was because he was really into prego porn. So he was watching prego porn on his
What?
yeah.
You really? No. But I mean, geez, couldn't you have just like generalized it to
No, because it
porn?
was really specific on their tape. They're like, this is the specific type of porn he was really into watching on while he was at work. So that's the videos that he stored on his computer, and he renamed them Nickelback MP3 files.
Golly.
And
Okay.
and remember that forensic investigators have to go through and watch these things to make sure they are what they are, so that's even funnier.
Yeah, but again, does this curry any favor for you? I don't think so. Amongst the people prosecuting you,
Yeah, I think it made it worse for the people. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So yeah, that's my delving into computer forensics and just my quick checkout and see how things are, because like I said, I've been watching a bunch of videos on it and hearing some stories about it, and got me kind of interested in it, so I wanted to check out about what was out there, and we have the show to be able to do things like that, so I thought it was cool to check into. Pretty interesting stuff there.
It's very nice. It gives us I like it because it gives us a good venting point, and we all obviously have enough to say throughout the day, certainly some of us more than others, and this is a perfect avenue for that, so thank you for doing, I like this. This was one of the nicer things you've had us do on a regular basis.
Yeah. So that's it for computer forensics tonight. Thanks, Undertaker, for joining in and adding some interesting things to the conversation.
Plug the bacon.
Yeah, so Monday morning, 8 a.m. is our next show, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing a bacon show. We're going to be cooking bacon and eating bacon, and I mean, what can be better on a Monday morning? So be sure to join us then. Check us out then. Learn some bacon techniques. or just get to watch bacon being cooked and eaten. Hopefully you'll have your own so you
Can
can
I
partake even.
skip this one?
What, the bacon one?
Yeah.
No. You're
I
gonna
think
have to
I'm
you're
gonna.
gonna have to be holding the camera.
What camera?
I can't cook bacon and hold the camera at the same time.
Everybody else is gonna be. Why can't you?
What do you mean everybody else is gonna be?
I thought everybody else was gonna cook bacon too.
No, I think John's gonna cook bacon, but Jade's probably gonna hold the camera for him.
Yeah, and I'm
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 sure you
actually
can rig it.
probably not going to be cooking bacon myself, but
Michael's probably gonna be in class, so
But Michael, ugh.
oh shit, I will be in class, won't I? Oh, I'll miss the bacon then.
yeah.
Can I make up a class?
Huh? Yeah, if you want to go over it on the show next week.
My class?
Whatever you want to make up for. But you're not going to miss the bacon episode, so.
Yes, exactly. You will be doing that.
Ugh.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
So, yeah, join us Monday for a bacon show. Otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend. If you're watching it on YouTube later, I hope you're having a good weekend. And we will be back Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and picking up from there with a bacon show and starting the week off great. So, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Later, folks.
Bye.